Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am the West African correspondent, Edward Amara. Welcome to the latest new update on the continent. Welcome to this all-important forum where we use this particular opportunity to bring to you the latest development on the continent. Focus on Liberia uses this particular program at this particular stage, one or two within a week, for 3 consecutive times, to ensure that we gathered information and bring them to you, analyze them, things that are actually of interest to the continent. Of course, Africa is our home, an area where development takes place, be it negative or positive. And I think the world see Africa like a virgin ground where everybody come there on escapade. So we are hoping, wishing, and also trying to ensure that at least our continent should definitely have some reflections, things that may definitely help the continent grow from certain stage. We all know how difficult it is at times, maybe to handle the continent. Here we have seen political crisis on the rise, and even our basic necessity in terms of food, shelter, medication, and whatever, these things are all in dire need. We are seeing demonstrations maybe almost on every part of the continent because of certain clandestine interests. We have seen or experiencing generation failure from one stage to another. And we are also seeing bad leadership. Notwithstanding that, we have also experienced exemplary leadership, like the like of Thomas Sankara, the like of maybe Nelson Mandela, Pastor Mahal Busana. We've also seen Africa having great children. You think like Kofi Annan, who once served as UN Press Secretary General, although he's no longer alive today. Then we are seeing how people in one or two ways have actually involved to ensure that the continent is actually good. Then we have also experienced how even under this era, like I did admire, or I still admire, the audacious move of Cyril Ramaphosa, a few other African leaders, how actually appear on the world scene to ensure that they pacify the situation in Ukraine. Although the dividends that we were expecting for such peace deal like that to yield was never achieved. But I think that was a very positive move in the right direction, which have also maybe exposed Africa to a stage that we also have the negotiating power, and maybe also have the commanding tendency to ensure that we I think Africa as a continent need to grow. We need to have positive things that may be set up that can actually have a reflection of the continent. But in terms of population, I think Africa is gifted because Africa has as a continent, has one of the youngest population on earth. Then we have virgin ground, and we have untouchable or forests that have not been touched. Let me not say untouchable forest. Or we have certain parts on the continent that have never been touched. Like if you enter into Congo, you see the Basin, the Congo Basin, have for generations upon generation, certain pieces of land or bushes into the Congo has never been touched. But although the government in Congo has discovered crude oil around those areas, and they have the potential to also ensure that they have the extraction of the crude oil. Unfortunately, the world, especially like those who are leading the campaign against deforestation, against not maybe global warming is affecting almost everybody. and now putting pressure on Congo not to tamper with the forest. But come to think of it, the West have destroyed all the natural habitats. And maybe if Africa should not touch her natural habitat, then it is up to the West to compensate them equally. But these folks sit down over there, they do nothing, and they compel Africa not to touch anything that is natural so that global warming should not increase. But the population is also growing. The population of Africa is in dire need for positive change. And the availability of oil into the Congo can change the Congolese life, then why not? They invest into it. Nevertheless, if the so-called West does not want Africa or Congo to invest into such thing, then it is up to them to respond positively to see how they can help the Congolese on that direction. All of those things are not there, it's a side effect. Okay, today we basically have important news on the continent. We have around 7 good stories. Our first story is like South Africa women team row with officials ahead of World Cup. Malawi's VP given more time in corruption case against him. Then we are also seeing Ethiopia respond to the birth certificate report on refugee birth. Then the Catholic Church called for international intervention into Sudan's crisis. Then we are also seeing to that same country, we have seen Sudan warns of rise in measles cases like at the backdrop of the conflict or in the midst of the conflict. Then finally, South Africa opposition leader or South Africa opposition intend to form a coalition that will oust the ruling party come 2024. Then finally, protest call against Senegalese leaders seeking a third term. So let's just start with South Africa. It's very unfortunate. Today we see our entertainment, the so-called government, so equally as their male counterparts. They are saying they really want to continue playing football for South Africa, and they want to represent the country at any stage into the world. Nevertheless, the South African government should treat them seriously as their male counterparts. Money should be invested hugely into female football, and they should also be treated equally as those so-called men who play on the continent. That if they cannot be treated seriously, they may not participate in the World Cup slated for this year in Australia. The government of South Africa is maybe threatening them that most of them would be replaced if they did not attend, and they are now calling upon other clubs to send candidates or maybe key footballers who can easily replace the so-called rebels. However, the female football is calling upon all clubs into South Africa, especially female clubs, not to release any player from their ranks to participate into the World Cup if their issues are not being handled seriously. It is unfortunate, it is quite amazing, and women football is definitely being treated or trivialized on the continent. It's not only in Africa, it cuts across the world. So it cuts across the world. I think we need to set brighter example and see how this female football can also be encouraged, and they're also part of the entertainment, or maybe part of the entertainment industry, especially when it comes to soccer. Going to Malawi. In Malawi, the vice president case against his person have definitely been extended, but with a delay. He was actually accused of having corrupted certain business transaction with somebody who based in the UK involving to contract over $20 million. Some people are saying 18, while others are saying beyond that amount. The Anti-Graft Commission took him in, got him detained, took statement from him, and he was later on released. In his own power or in his wisdom, decided against the person of the vice president. Maybe this is Africa. I think we have to see what should things that do not belong to them. So the vice president case is now suspended. or maybe a big delay. That is what is going on today in Malawi, and it is so unfortunate that some people somewhere, because of certain circumstances, have the ability to corrupt, and will definitely go without being punished. They will go with absolute impunity. Citizens of Eritrea who fled from the country either for economic given. So we are praying and hoping that the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, that is the UNHCR, of course, I benefited greatly from it in Guinea. I grew up under the system to get those certificates. Then we are seeing also in Sudan, the Catholic Church is definitely calling upon the international community to intervene, because as measles continue to spread in the middle of the conflict, women are being raped.